Call the meeting to order, and tonight I'd like to invite our Eagle Scout, Mr. Braden, Beck, to come forward and lead us in the pledge.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'll call you up in just. We're doing it right now while we're here? Go ahead and just go back and I'll call you up. Thanks. Welcome to the September 18th Post Falls City Council meeting. Shannon, please note that all council members are present. We started the evening with a presentation on the city center parking plan. That will be coming forward to council meeting either the first or the second meeting in October, where we will discuss it in the regular council meeting. Tonight we do have a couple of announcements. Join the Post Falls Police Department for Coffee with a Cop tomorrow, September 19th at Terra Coffee and Bakery. Staff will be there from 9 to 10:30 a.m. to answer questions and concerns and visit with the citizens of Post Falls. The first annual Post Falls Public Works Touch a Truck is this Saturday, September 22nd, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Camellan Park. This free event provides kids of all ages with the opportunity to experience life-size vehicles and to interact with community support leaders like police officers, firemen, construction workers, military personnel, and many more. The Idaho National Guard is hosting their second annual Coeur d'Alene Warrior Challenge this Saturday, September 22nd from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. at McEwen Park in Coeur d'Alene. This is a free event that invites the public to see military equipment and training up close. There will also be recreational activities for the whole family to enjoy. National Voter Registration Day is Tuesday, September 25th. The League of Women Voters of Kootenai County will be at the Post Falls Library from 10 a.m. until 4 p.m. to assist with voter registration and updating information for currently registered voters. And I'll do that later. At this point, I would like to invite Mr. Beck back up. As you probably know, Mayor Larkin started a policy of recognizing and congratulating the Eagle Scouts in our community for the hard work that they've done and for this great accomplishment. And tonight we have the honor of recognizing Braden, John, Dale Beck from Troop 206. Braden's Eagle Scout project was to build storage benches for Greens Ferry Elementary School in Post Falls. So Braden, that's a tremendous accomplishment to reach your Eagle Scout. Myself and the council congratulate you, and on behalf of the city, we would like to present you with a gift card from Cabela's and a certificate acknowledging your accomplishment. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Congratulations. It's a lot of hard work. Excellent work.
Thank you.
Good job, Braden.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for taking the time to join us tonight. And we do have a couple proclamations. Constitution Week 2018. Whereas September 17th, 2018 marks the 231st anniversary of the drafting of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention. And whereas it is fitting and proper to accord official recognition to this magnificent document in its memorable anniversary, and to the patriotic celebrations which will commemorate the occasion. And whereas Public Law 915 guarantees the issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America designating September 17th through the 23rd as Constitution Week. Now therefore I, Ronald G. Jacobson, Mayor of the City of Post Falls, Idaho, do hereby proclaim the week of September 17th through 23rd as Constitution Week, and ask our citizens to reaffirm the ideals the framers of the Constitution had in 1787 by vigilantly protecting the freedoms guaranteed to us through this guardian of our liberties, remembering that lost rights may never be regained. And it's also National Child Passenger Safety Week. Whereas infants, toddlers, and children represent Idaho's future, and whereas motor vehicle crashes are the leading cause of death and serious injuries for children 14 years old and younger, and whereas nationwide in 2016, of the 826 children killed in passenger vehicle crashes, 289 were unrestrained. And whereas in Idaho during 2016, 3 children under 7 years old died and 5 were seriously injured in car crashes because they were unrestrained. And whereas many of these deaths and injuries could have been prevented had these children been buckled up in an appropriate car seat or seatbelt. And whereas during National Child Passenger Safety Week, September 23rd through 29th, 2018, several car seat safety check events will be held statewide. And whereas Idaho has more than 300 certified child passenger safety technicians who are committed to educating parents and caregivers about the best way to keep kids safe while traveling in cars, no matter how short or long the trip. And whereas the Mayor and City Council hereby support the Post Falls Police Department, emphasizing the importance of preventing child deaths and injuries by keeping them buckled up in an appropriate car seat or seatbelt. Now therefore I, Ronald G. Jacobson, Mayor of the City of Post Falls, Idaho, do hereby proclaim the week of September 23rd through 29th as National Child Passenger Safety Week in the City of Post Falls, and call on and encourage our citizens to take advantage of car seat safety checks to ensure children are in the proper car seat for their age and size, and that the seats are installed correctly. Do we have any amendments to the agenda tonight?
We have none tonight, sir.
And any declarations of conflict? Seeing none, would you please present the consent calendar?
Item A is minutes from the September 4th, 2018 City Council meeting. Item B is payables August 28th through September 10th, 2018. Item C is Haven North Construction Improvement Agreement. Item D is Public Transit Funding Agreement with Kootenai County for CityLink. Item E is additional services with TO Engineers for the Water System Improvement Project. Item F is contract with Premier Site Furniture for Tullamore Park Furnishings. And item G, Maplewood Villas Subdivision Master Development Agreement, file number S-17-11.
Any questions on the consent calendar?
I just had one question. Do you know if Judy Beasy is going to come and give us an update from Jody? Yeah. From CityLink?
We don't have anything scheduled currently, but I can reach out to her and have her come and, I know she does presentations for even Rotary. She's come and presented and talks about the numbers and what's going on with the update to the transit center.
They do have an groundbreaking for the transit center coming up, and I can't remember, sometime in October.
October 10th, I believe, but
Okay.
I'd have to double check. I'll reach out to her.
Yeah, I was just curious.
Any other questions? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
To approve the consent calendar as presented.
Second.
Motion second, further discussion. Shannon, please take the roll.
Wilhelm.
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Borders.
Aye.
Thorson.
Aye.
Malloy.
Aye.
Anthony.
Aye. Motion passes. Next up is public hearings. Tonight we have none, followed by unfinished business. Tonight, Water System Master Plan adoption. John.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. John Beecham, Utilities Manager. Tonight, I'm returning with hopefully the last update on the Water System Master Plan. This has been a couple-year project, and I'm happy to have a final plan for your review tonight. An overview of what we'll go through, a summary of the plan itself. There's a financial plan included with that. I mentioned the DEQ review process, and then opportunity for any questions you may have. The purpose of the master plan is ultimately to guide the future investments of the water division within the city, as well as to inform regulatory agencies of our plan if there are existing deficiencies in our system or projected deficiencies, and to provide financial planning to fund those projects that would be needed within the plan. In order to accomplish the plan, first you look at the water system as a whole. We reviewed the existing system for anything that's currently deficient. We also projected the future needs, anticipating growth according to city growth projections within the water system boundaries, and projected what we would need in terms of water supply in those areas. From that, we were able to develop a list of deficiencies. What that really means is something within the system would not be meeting a level of service that we had stated. And we're really looking at peak day demands as well as fire flow. So those are the two things that guide system functionality. We developed a plan with our consultant to address those deficiencies, and then again in consultation with the consultant developed a financial plan to accomplish that. I'll take a few minutes to highlight the first 5 years of projects within this plan. It's a 20-year plan, and really the first 5 year are sort of the firm element of it, and the next are things that we're planning for and anticipating, but we don't have firm dates associated with those as of yet. This area of town is just north of Spokane Street and the freeway interchange. P2, P3, P4, and P5 are actually water system projects, small projects in terms of length, upgrading existing water mains to address current needs. And this is actually a project we've already designed, and it'll be rebid later this year for hopefully construction next summer. This is a little bit north near the cemetery. The cemetery is also where well 5 and well 7 are. You can see the P1 project located just to the west of that. That is basically upgrading pipes again within a subdivision to ensure fire flow. You can also see projects F1 and F2 near well 3. That's an existing well at City Park. That's showing we need additional wells in order to meet the projected future needs of the water system. And this is a project we're currently negotiating a scope on. We'll be bringing that back to you fairly soon. And then the last of the 5-year projects are piping projects, and these are on Beck Road and Pleasant View Road, basically just extending transmission mains for water underneath the railroad tracks north of Southeast. This is something I presented several months ago, but a very brief summary of our financial plan. Generally, you would not want to see your financial plan trending downward, but our goal within this plan was to spend down some of the reserves within the water division budget, or within the spend down the water division reserves. So what you're seeing here is accomplishing that. The numbers behind this graphic are projecting a 3% rate increase each year, and that's something that will obviously come to you for review and approval. But with those projections and with the projects we've identified, we're hoping to spend the reserves down to some lower levels than what we have today. I mentioned the Idaho Department of Environmental Quality Review. In order for a master plan to be adopted, the IDEQ must review it. What that allows you to do is go design projects, and when the project is brought back to them for approval, they know why you're working on it. IDEQ approved our plan after a decent amount of review time with no comments other than to make sure we tell them if we're working on a project. And that is my short summary of the plan. I do have the full document with me, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions of John?
John, I noticed that in the plan that coming up in 2019 and 2020, that we've got a large expenditure for a new well, and then there's a well rehab in 2020 and 2021. I'm assuming that that's already built into those reserves. We're not going to come back to the citizens and say, we got to come up with an extra $2 or $3 million to do those wells. Is that correct?
Yeah, you are correct in that the assumptions within the plan are taking those projects into account, and that's part of what's spending down the reserves here. And then in addition, the projected 3% rate increase helps to fund those projects as well.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you need a motion on this from us tonight, then?
There's a resolution later on the
good.
agenda.
Thank you, John.
Thank you for your time.
Next item up is citizens' issues, and this section of the agenda is reserved for citizens wishing to address the council regarding a city-related issue that is not on the agenda. And if you wish to speak, please come forward and give your name, and there's a timer here. Name for the record, please, when you get up there.
Name is John Favor. I reside at 112 East First Avenue, number 5. It's at Greenview Condominiums. And the issue tonight is that I would like to express is a safety issue. And it occurs at in the 100 block and also up Frederick Street of vehicles parking in a no parking zone. And that occurred that when the Post Falls Brewery became very successful, and their occupancy inside is set at 65, outside they can seat about 104. So you have the total of roughly maybe 169 people there at any one time, and I calculated that the space required for parking would be 56 to 84 parking spots, and on site at the brewery they only have 8. So the balance of them, 48 to 76, end up on the street. And that becomes an issue from a parking standpoint and a safety standpoint. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of background. And they used the city center parking plan. If I'd known there had been a meeting on that earlier today, I would have attended that meeting, but I didn't. I understand this plan is preliminary only at this point, and that was per Jennifer. And but when you talk to the planning office, well, they claimed that the reason they only had to have 8 was because for them to have a permit on site was they relied on on-street parking is what they did. So that puts it all out on the street. Might help if I turn the mouse on. Still not working. Maybe we have a dead mouse. Do we have a dead mouse? Oh, there it goes. Okay, thank you. So the city did install a no parking sign. Let me go back one and see if that skipped one. Well, go back one.
I'll just go back.
Oh, use that. Okay, we'll go back one. If you look at that preliminary plan, you will see on the south side of First Avenue, they show parallel parking in there. Across from it, they show angle parking, and that looks like backing into parking in that area. Now that plan that they used, the city has taken those steps to actually implement the street parking. So everything is flooded into First Avenue and also up there onto Frederick. And on the north-hand side, there's not even sidewalks. So people have to walk out in the street. Even people on the south side, they walk out in the street. But the issue I want to look at tonight is just the parking. So, am I going the wrong way?
Sir, I just want to let you know, I'm going to give you more time because you had issues, but it's a 5-minute limit, so your time is about, we'll give you an extra minute, but just so you know, it is a limit of 5 minutes, so.
What am I, down to 27 seconds?
Yeah, we'll give you another couple minutes, so go ahead.
Okay. So the city did come out and put parking signs up. Originally, they were small signs. They came out and put larger signs up with red flags. The parking goes all the way down to the fire plug there. And so from those 2 points, that's a no parking zone. Here's a car parked in the no parking zone, and this is where the safety issue comes into point. We cannot see the cars coming down First Avenue, coming off of Spokane Street. Just can't see them. So there's 2 cars that are parked. Sometimes they're parked even out into our driveway. Here's 2 cars parked there. Here's a car parked or a truck parked in the no parking zone and even in front of the fire plug. Now, what can be done to resolve our safety issues? Well, the city's central parking plan won't solve the problem right now. The implementation date is unknown. You don't know when you're going to implement that. Calling the police is not a solution because the cars, when they ticket them, may be there for another 2 or 3 hours. And so we still have the visibility standpoint where we cannot see to enter First Avenue. And calling the police really is not the solution. I've called them over 250 times. They respond. A lot of times the cars may be gone, other times they're there. So some of those solutions, I think we need to help the drivers. It's a driver issue. It's not the brewery, it's not the city central parking plan, it's the driver. And we could improve the situation down there by parking designation. And one of them would be to designate the parking space. Another one would be a red curb or white stripes. Another one would be to add to those signs, will toll. Now, I think people would probably still park there. So here's a designated parking space where you have like a T where it shows 2 parking spots where you could start it right there by the Spokane Street where there is a no parking and run it up to our no parking area, which would be like on the left would be the start of it and then the finish of it where they could park. The other one is to paint the curb red. Now, we've been told by the city several times we don't paint curbs red. Well, guess where this red is? It's on 4th Street. They're at the Falls Park Apartments. I've been down there several times. Nobody parks in that red spot. And I was told that was painted by the city. We've requested that and been denied, but that would help solve the problem. The other one, also on 4th Street, is where they've got white stripes. And they've actually got a sawhorse there. I think on this particular one, it states it's backing in parking. So the other one would be vehicles will be towed. I think there's some people that would park there anyway, even just for a minute. So let's get it done, you know, a team effort of what we can do down there. This is something that really can't wait until the city's central parking is resolved or they do the planned parking down there on First. We needed immediate actions on there. I can't tell you how many times. It's been very close calls. So I just ask for some consideration of within the right department to look at this issue. It is a serious safety issue that we have down there.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I agree. You know, I've been down and I've parked my car and got out and started walking away and turned around and says, oops, I'm parked in a no parking and have to move it because it is hard to see. So I would ask staff, engineering, PD, take a look and see, you know, what can be done to better designate those areas as non-parking. because there are a lot of cars. They are successful. You know, we hope they continue to be successful.
That's right.
But there are spots where if you can't see that it is no parking, there's still people, as you say, that will park there. But if we can get staff to take a look and maybe come back with a recommendation as a follow-up, I would appreciate it. So let's see if we can make that
We'll take care of it.
improvement. Good. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Linda?
May I say something, Mayor? Whoever's going to do that, could I just ask that when you go down there to look, that you go down there and look at the time when, and like the mayor says, we want the brewery to be successful. However, if you would go down there and look, and I know that the city staff is off work at 5 o'clock, but that brewery between, 4 o'clock and 7 o'clock, and even other people that live down the road, I mean, if you pull, you can't see, I mean, you can't pull out of any of those driveways and see, because the cars are parked so close together on both sides of the street that you can't, it's not even one lane of traffic to get east and west on First Avenue. And I understand during the day, it doesn't look like a problem at all, and it's not a problem at all, but in the evenings, on the weekends, things like that, someone is gonna get hurt. And I don't wanna see anybody get hurt.
Yeah, staff, if
So-
you'll bring back just an update for us, let us know what can be done, because something needs to be done. Good. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mayor, I have a quick question, and I don't have to have it answered now, but in that report, the painting of the curbs, do we or do we not paint curbs? So I don't,
Well,
We'll answer that in the
I was just
report.
gonna
Let him bring
say,
that
so if
back,
you can
yeah.
make sure that that's in the report.
yep. Thank you. Anybody else wishing to address the council tonight? Seeing none, next item up is new business, and I want to make sure I got to the right one. Riverside Harbor Lift Station replacement. Andrew?
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Andrew Arbini, Utilities Project Manager. Last fall, we brought a contract, a design and CMS contract with JUB Engineers for the Riverside Harbor lift station replacement. Since that time, we have finalized the design, actually advertised for bids, and opened bids on September 5th. I put together 2 slides that provide a quick overview and recap of that project and what the design looks like, as well as the analysis of the bids that we did receive. This shows a general view of what the construction work will entail at this site. It's pretty busy, as you can see. There's a lot of lines. I added the colored shapes to help highlight some of the key areas and items of this project. So in particular, the blue rectangles at the top of the screen, that will be a new control building that will house the electrical gear. Separated by a wall and a separate room will be odor control improvements. And then that separate blue rectangle is a new generator, a natural gas fired generator that provides backup electricity in the event we lose our primary feed. The red line on the background is a retaining wall. That property, as you move up towards the top of the screen there, slopes upward. So to make most efficient use of the footprint there, we were able to move into the hillside, put a short retaining wall, and then for security reasons, we've included a chain link fence there as well. The green circle and square is our new wet well and valve vault. It is worth noting that compared to our previous lift station designs, on this project, we thought it would be a great fit to use precast structures that had a benefit of an expedited construction schedule compared to a cast-in-place process that requires a lot more time. And then the longer rectangular shapes Similar to that idea and that principle of speeding up the construction, the overflow basin will be constructed out of 5-foot diameter HDPE pipes connected together as compared to a cast-in-place project. You can see there's a lot going on in a small space. There are some site constraints. South of the shapes there is a driveway, a through driveway that goes through the site. So that provides access for the HOA members, their community park there, and then they exit out of the northeast end. During construction, we will separate this site from the HOA member site, so they'll have access to their park throughout the construction, and the contractor will be limited to this area only. As I mentioned, we opened bids on September 5th at City Hall. We received 3 bids. Halmy Construction, TML Construction, and SNL Underground were the 3 bidders. The apparent low bid was from Halmy Construction, an amount of $1,080,000. Following the opening of the bids, JUB provided a review of the bids in compliance with the bidding requirements and the documents. You'll note in the first column, the highlighted portion at the bottom, next to the HVAC, Halmy listed a subcontractor for the HVAC work that after JUB's review was determined that they are not licensed to perform that work. The second issue that was identified in Halmy's bid is the absence of a contractor listed for plumbing. Under the Idaho Code and listed in the documents, bidding documents, it is required that a licensed plumber perform this work. And worth noting, the TML Construction and SNL, in their bid forms, they did list a plumbing contractor. After some additional review and discussion with JUB, city staff, and legal counsel, it's determined that Halmy's bid was deemed unresponsive. It is staff's recommendation to staff and JUB's recommendation to award the bid to the responsive low bidder of TML Construction. So their bid amount is $1,107,500. The amount being requested this evening includes a 5% contingency for potential change orders, unforeseen conditions, and any changes that may benefit the water reclamation system. So that total amount requested for approval this evening is $1,162,875. It's noted in the memo. One final note to mention: following a council approval of a recommendation to award to TML, we will send out letters starting tomorrow to all 3 contractors notifying them of this decision, and that starts a 7 calendar day window for anyone to protest. So if there is a protest within that window, they have 7 days to file that protest. Absent a protest following the 7 days, we would move forward with an award to TML Construction and begin signing a contract and move forward.
Any questions, Mr. Arbini? Did you have something more?
One brief clarification. So we'll send out the notices tomorrow. They have 7 days to object. If nobody objects, then we move forward with the bid. If we do have an objecting bidder, we'll come back to you. The state law requires that we come back and we address their complaint on the record, and from there, we move forward.
Does Halmy know that their bid was rejected
Yes.
when they were at the meeting? So
Yes, we've had, I think, both staff and I believe JUB have both spoken with Halmy.
That is correct.
Okay.
We've discussed with them, and they are aware, and they were aware of our path forward.
Okay. Seeing no further questions, thank you, Andrew. Do we have a motion?
I would move to approve, to recommend the bid award for the Riverside Harbor Lift Station replacement to TML Construction.
second.
Motion second. Further discussion? Shannon, please take the roll.
Malloy.
Aye.
Thorson.
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Anthony.
Aye.
Wilhelm.
Aye.
Borders.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Thank you, Andrew. Next item up tonight, ordinances and resolution. We have one resolution on the water system master plan.
Move to approve the Water System Master Plan adoption.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion? Shannon, please take the roll.
Borders.
Aye.
Malloy.
Aye.
Anthony.
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Thorson.
Aye.
Wilhelm.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Administrative staff reports, we have two. The first one tonight is ITD project update. Mr. Paulus.
Honorable Mayor, members of the council, Robert Paulus, Assistant City Engineer. One of the common themes that we've heard recently, both at the staff level and you've heard at the council level when there's land actions, whether it's annexations or land development, is our transportation systems are having problems. And the question that's posed to us is, what is the city doing to correct these problems? And what is the city doing from a long-term planning standpoint? In February of this year, council approved the update to the city's transportation master plan. City staff is also actively engaged on a regular basis at a regional planning level with the Kootenai Metropolitan Planning Organization, the Kootenai County Area Transportation Team, and we also sit down and work with ITD from time to time on projects where the city of Post Falls is a stakeholder. KMPO is projecting that over the next 6 years, there will be close to $0.3 billion invested in Kootenai County in transportation upgrades. And that's just from the state grant-funded type projects, whether that's Post Falls, Coeur d'Alene, Rathdrum, et cetera. That does not include projects that the city of Post Falls is doing to improve the transportation system with impact fee dollars or our normal overlay and widening type projects. It also doesn't include those projects that are being done by the local development community to mitigate their impacts as they develop land. Tonight we've asked the Idaho Transportation Department to come and give you an update on a couple of the projects that they're doing in the area and that will directly impact the city of Post Falls within the next 6 years. So tonight I introduce Mr. Bill Robertson, who is the District 1 planner for the Idaho Transportation Department, and he's accompanied by Shannon Stein, who is a project manager. And you wanted the value engineering? Or Lochner?
The Lochner one first. Mr. Mayor, council member, my name is Bill Robertson. I'm the senior planner in District 1 for Idaho Transportation Department. With me is Shannon Stein. She's an associate engineer with ITD as well. And in the background is Marvin Fenn. He's engineering manager at ITD. And John Vaudry is an engineer with our design construct team, which is doing the SH41, one of the SH41 projects. So what we have here is in 2017, we had a consultant do a study out on the interstate to look at what the existing conditions were. We all know what they are. It's congested at peak. So it's a process that we have to go through to chase funding, to alternative type funding for expansion purposes. So this first graphic here is from milepost 0 to 15, which is state line to Sherman Avenue, right around there. And this shows that we're experiencing level of service D and E for the entire segment, which is basically a roadway that is at capacity during our peak hours. So what we want to do is, of course, lower that level of service, and what are we going to do to get there in the future? One of the things, how do I turn this over? The next slide. This is
experts on our way.
Yeah. I don't want to push the wrong button and shut down on me or explode or something. Oh, I'm sorry. The next slide is what the level of service is in 2027. You can see that it goes red, which is level of service F, which is stop and go traffic at our peak hours. AM peak, evening peak, and also what we're starting to experience is is a third peak, which is a mid-afternoon peak. So that's dead stop, moving incrementally through the quarter. And then again, moving on to 2037, and this one would be with the Hutter build-out, the additional north-south route that is in our vision in the future when we're not sure, but it is out there. It'll be a controlled access system that'll go from the interstate along Hutter up through the prairie and attached to 95 up north. So it'll be that additional route north. Again, it's failing hard. We all know it. So what are we going to do about it? This one is without the Hutter interchange, and it's about the same. Hutter doesn't provide a lot of relief to the interstate or some of the other routes, 41. So some of the potential solutions are, we can go one by one. Solution D, which is signalize the westbound off-ramp at Celtice Way. That would be westbound off-ramp at Celtice Way. Another one is further up the line at signalize the eastbound off-ramp at 15th. Next one, C, Spokane Street to SH41, add an additional lane. So here we go with our third lane on the interstate, so we can increase capacity on the roadway, so we can start to see that level of service drop off. For this to happen, we've got to have money. We've got to search alternative type funding, whether it's through the grant system or the only program that we have for expansion is safety and capacity program, which competes statewide around $80 million, and it'll compete statewide. So we've got to have a pretty high benefit to cost ratio to construct something like this. So now we get into some other ones. Let me get down to the one of the key items is the first crack at the nut that's in the program is the SH41 interchange. That project is programmed for FY23. It's in the very early stages. We're in the value engineering stages where we're determining what to do, what's going to fit best out there that's going to address the load of the roadway, the crashes. We have had several crashes on that Cloverleaf westbound off-ramp, so we're going to address those, and that's how this came into the program, was that safety factor. So when we get to that, we'll let Shannon talk about it, and she's got a couple exhibits as well that she'll show you what we're looking at and the direction we're going with the interchange. This here is just some graphics of adding the third lane, and it's going to go on down the line. The first solution is, of course, at Beck Road to Pleasant View, adding a third lane there. That's the solution A. Solution B would be from Pleasant View interchange to the east, a third lane on both bounds. And then this one here, Pleasant View to Spokane Street, that's the one we talked about. Add the third lane. The orange is adding a lane to the outside, yellow adding it to the inside. We do have some issues with some structures out there that'll have to be widened as well to address that. 2017, 2027 potential solutions, and again, it's about funding. How are we going to come up with the funding to do, 15 miles of a third lane on the interstate? Pleasant View, or Pennsylvania and Sherman, we're getting further east. So I'd just like to show Mr. Mayor and members of the council that we are looking at what to do and how to address the problems that we're experiencing on the interstate already. It is in the future. It's a matter of when, it's going to happen, not if. It has to happen. We're looking at projected volumes out here just in the post-fall urbanized area on the interstate in 2037 of nearly 100,000 vehicles on the interstate as an ADT. That's one day, an average annual daily traffic. We're looking at 100,000 vehicles. Right now, we're experiencing in the summer months, I think the high this year was around 68,000. So it jumps drastically. So what I've done is I have all these. Rob has them on here, of course, and also on a flash drive. If you would like to look at it and you have any questions, by all means, contact our office, myself, some of the other engineers there. We can answer any questions you have. With that, I'd like to go on to the interchange and what Shannon's looking at now, and what we're kind of studying of what's gonna fit in there.
Quick question for you first.
Yes.
So you talked about the interchange at 90 and 41 being in 2023.
Yes.
How about the improvements? What's the time frame for Highway 41 improvement exclusive of that interchange?
Well, we'll talk about that in a few too. Okay. And right now, there was some snags on it with our environmental. We came up with some State Historical Society out here came up with a house that's south of pole line, and also the roadway itself. It's been determined historical, so we have to go through that SHPO process, and it held up our environmental document. So we couldn't start purchasing right away with federal funds. We got some state funds to start our early acquisition, but we're still set to go to construction in 2020.
Good.
That's our plan. We went to an intermediate final design review just so we could move the ball forward.
Thank you. Linda.
Yes, could I just ask you one question? I want to make sure that I heard you right. Did you say that the header bypass isn't going to take any pressure off of, I think that's what you said.
I did.
So why is anybody gonna spend that money?
It's not a whole lot, because what we're looking at, we look at further east too. We look at Northwest Boulevard and we look at US 95. All right, where are people going to get up north? All right, they're going up to 95. Right now, the ADTs out here on the interstate, once you hit exit 12, it dies. So everyone is going to Northwest Boulevard, 41, Northwest Boulevard, and 95 to head north to get to the Sandpoint area.
And so the question is then, if it's not going to take any of the traffic off of the freeway, then why wouldn't you move the dollars somewhere where it's going to do some good?
It'll do some good once the prairie's built up, because that'll be that north-south route for all of the development on the prairie also, because we're going to be looking at 41 as looking just like 95 eventually. So we need another north-south route, or we're looking at 95. I'm sure you all drive 95 now, and it's pretty chaotic and congested. So it's a controlled access route, interchanges. You don't have approaches every quarter mile, half mile like we do out here on 41 and 95.
Thank you. It's not going to help the interstate necessarily, but it's going to help 41, 95, and Ramsey.
It is. It'll definitely help it. Here goes Shannon.
I guess that's the first one.
Yes, that is. Mayor, Council, I'm Shannon Stein. I'm a project manager with ITD. I actually have a couple of construction projects I also wanted to bring forward to you tonight, but since we've got the pretty pictures up here, I'll start with 41. So as Bill said, 41 is currently programmed for construction in 2023. Right now, we are in the very preliminary design phase of it. We're really in figuring out what we're going to do out there because there's quite a few, it's a very built environment. There's some interesting geographical constraints with the Highlands Golf Course and that steep slope we have there. And also this is going to be a main north-south connector. So we want to make sure we do this right and that we're investing the money correctly. So we're really taking our time in determining the correct alternative here. We plan to complete design by 2020, which gives us plenty of time for any agreements or any right-of-way acquisition we need to do to be on track for construction. We have a public meeting tentatively scheduled for November 7th. It'll be somewhere in that week to present our preferred alternative or alternatives to the public, and then another one scheduled in the summer of 2019 after preliminary design. So right now, we hired DEA to perform the design and alternatives analysis for us. We started with 8 different alternatives, and then this week we're doing a value engineering session to pare down our alternatives to about 2. We have several local stakeholders involved, including Bill and Rob from your engineering department. They've been there and plan to be there for the rest of the week. We're evaluating alternatives based on safety and operations, right? Because this is really primarily a safety project, and then we want to make sure it's something that will operate in the future. And we're also then looking at, after that, what can we do that fits those parameters with the least amount of impacts and the most cost-effective for a cost-benefit ratio there. So our total impacts are not known yet, but we are fairly low impact on the alternatives we're considering right now, and we'll still throughout there accommodate the Celtice is an east-west arterial, 41 is a north-south arterial, our access between them and I-90, and then the bike and pedestrian movement throughout. So I wanted to show you 4 of all our alternatives that we have tonight, just kind of to show you. These are pretty much almost napkin sketches at this point. So there's still a lot of tweaking to do and a lot of optimizing we can do on all of these. But I want to show you kind of the direction we're going with this. So the first alternative is more of a system interchange like you would see between 2 interstates with, does this have a laser on it? Okay. Well, anyways, it's got a flyover wrap from eastbound coming over, dropping into 41, and then still maintains some loop ramps, but it's a lot more free-flowing than what we've got out there, which will generate operational efficiency for us. And we have 3 different alternatives and several other variations thereof that kind of follow this basic general concept. The other alternative we're looking at several to do with this one, it decouples and splits south and northbound 41 to allow for free-flowing movement. So I don't want to say it's like a roundabout on steroids, but it is kind of flows kind of like a roundabout there. It's not really like a roundabout, but it's a similar type of movement where you're coming in and you're merging in and flowing through the interchange. We've got a couple of different options for the intersections at Celtice. This alternative shows them as signals, but we're exploring options with roundabouts and other alternatives we can do there. This shows what it would look like potentially with the roundabouts down there. And that's the same alternative again. Okay, and then the last one utilizes what's called a single point urban interchange. It's very similar to what we're putting in at 53 and 95. Boise has also put several in. It's kind of an up-and-coming interchange design because it works well in these built-up tight environments because you control the interchange from one signal, so the signals perform better throughout there. Key functions of our we're looking at several different SPUI types, is that we'll take Celtice through traffic up and over 41 to maintain that more efficiently, and then the rest will be diverted down through some sort of jug handle around Herborn or Ross Point. That's all still being optimized because there's a lot of there's a lot of tweaks we can do there, and we're working closely with Rob and Bill to look at all those impacts there. And so that's basically where we're at in 41 in a nutshell. Like I said, we'll have a public meeting early November, so that notice should be coming out on that shortly there, where we will present the results of our value planning session we've got to the public, and before we make a final decision on our alternative type. So if you guys, I don't know if you have any questions on this before I move into some construction.
Just remember last time we looked at about 7 different alternatives.
I know.
So hopefully
Yeah.
these will work out better.
Yeah, I know, and that's really kind of one of our goals too in this, is to do it right, so we aren't coming back here again in 10 years to say, okay, this didn't work, what are we going to do now? And I wanted to update you on a couple of construction projects that we have on our system that are in Post Falls. The first is a bridge repair project that we've got. Braun Jensen out of Payette is doing it for us. It's a 2-season job. So the first season, we're building crossovers at Hutter for next year, out by the way station there. We've got all that earthwork going on. And then we're also resurfacing bridge decks in Post Falls. And so that's the work we have going on Point Parkway or Beck Road, McGuire Street, Idaho Street, and Celtice. We'll get all that done this fall. We just put, it's a thin epoxy surface on it. It's kind of similar to a seal coat. That's just part of our maintenance of the bridge decks. And then next year, we're going to basically replace the decks on I-90 at Hutter and Atlas. And so we're building the crossovers because we have a longer cure time with the concrete. So it's a little more impacts to traffic, but we've learned a lot from in town this summer. And so as much as we can, hopefully we can keep those impacts where we're at. We're going to do that early next spring before peak tourist season. So that should help. And then also at night next year, we're going to do that epoxy overlay on the bridges at the Spokane River, the Pleasant View interchange, and then the 4 bridges at Spokane Street over the railroad tracks and Spokane Street itself on I-90. Those will be nighttime lane closures, so those should be fairly low impact. And then we also have coming next summer, after we're done with the bridges, we have a mill and inlay from the state line basically to Northwest Boulevard. That will be night work as well, and we're going to do mainline I-90 and some ramps, and that will just eliminate the ruts and the cracking and generally maintain our pavement that we have out there. That's currently out to advertisement, so we don't have a contractor on board yet for that, but that's coming. Okay.
Any questions? Well, what you said just verified, or what my son has always said, in North Idaho, there's 2 seasons, winter and construction. So.
We squeeze as much in as we can.
Well, thank you for all the
You're
work
welcome.
you're doing up here. We appreciate it.
In addition to the work on the I-90, where KMPO has put in for a grant to relocate the POE. It's a much-needed project. It would relocate it. There's a section of right-of-way between McGuire and Spokane Street on the south side of the highway. We should find out hopefully sometimes this month if that grant comes through for us, which helped the POE folks out quite a bit. So we can move on to SH 41. So this, I just put this on here, a link to it anyways. This is a link to our public-facing website, and it'll give you information on the projects themselves. There's actually 4 projects out there. That's the Mullen to Prairie, Prairie to Lancaster, Lancaster to Bakel, and then there's a signal at the intersection of 41 and Lancaster. What we're doing out there is we're going to a 4-lane divided median system, signals on the half-mile, and some will be placed during the project in 2020. And a lot of the roadway and the infrastructure that is within the Post Falls city limits will be constructing back 1,000 feet on either side of the roads as well, the signalized intersections and also some at the quarter mile. So this site here, it'll give you a project overview, the project map, and it'll allow you to zoom in on the particular intersections, the typical sections of the roadway itself. The portion from Mullen to pole line won't have a grass median. It'll be raised medium divider out there. So we've got some exhibits of the project. Here's our typical section from Mullen to 12th. See 12-foot lanes, travel lanes, sidewalk, shared use path between 12th and 16th. And then continuing up past Prairie, there will be a shared use path on the east side of the roadway for the length of the project. We did get a freight grant to build a grade separation at the UPRR main line. So we won't have to deal with that crossing, having to stop at it when the trains has it active. And we're in the process now of working with the AmeriGas facility that's on Prairie and shutting down the spur line that crosses, that bisects the 41 as well. So with the elimination of those two crossings, it'll be a clear shot all the way up to Rathdrum. So I've got another one. I don't see the other one here. Anyways, I have another link to the other projects to the north. This one's just a Prairie. Hey Rob, I don't see that one here. Is the Word doc open? Oh, here it is. There's the Prairie to Bakel section, which starts at Prairie there. And then the signalized intersections. We'll be replacing the signal at Hayden. No signal at Wyoming at this time. Signal at Lancaster, signal at Nagle, and a PED tunnel at Nagle is planned for the project. And then we'll be terminating a project at Bakel. And we've had a lot of questions about the southern portion from Southeast to Mullen, which is going to be addressed or in the planning stages in the early design stations of the interchange. We're required to look at that section, and we have funding program for that for 2025, so those projects should overlap as well. John, am I missing anything?
I think you covered, I think the biggest point that was brought up is still on track for right
away. Any questions?
I was just going, when I was looking at, so the bike trail will be on the one on the east side, 41 then, just
Right.
be on one side?
On the
then?
east side.
Okay.
Yep.
Al?
You mentioned the port of entry, moving the port of entry. Why is that necessary?
Where it sets now at Hutter is the grade that goes up to Hutter. We have a lot of trucks. There's the weigh in motion slab is west of SH 41 interchange. And trucks are required to be in that lane to go over that slab, and it picks up license plate data, weight data, the whole bit on the truck. So the conflict with the trucks being in that right-hand lane and the interchange and then going up the grade, they slow down as well. So we have a lot of congestion out there. We had a treadis run done on it. It's a model that'll give us an economic impact of what happens if we move it. The delay was 8 minutes for having that hutter where it's at now. Rather than moving it onto a flat tangent area, it works out much better. And what happens is we've been looking at cut-through traffic for years that is using the local system to avoid the POE. They'll either use Pleasant View and go out to 53 and avoid it that way. So this way, if we move it, we can put the equipment on Pleasant View out at 53 as well and pick that truck data up too. People trying to cut through.
So the Way in Motion project that you put in there just in the last couple of years is going to be defunct?
It will. We'll just, what'll happen is the vault and the load banks will be pulled out and the equipment will be moved down. It'll be moved west of McGuire. Same equipment.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you all for your presentations. Does that take care of the Celtice Way mitigation as well, or is that another one?
No.
No.
My boss just told me to be quick on this one. Honorable Mayor, members of the council, Robert Paulus, Assistant City Engineer. And let me pull up, let me go this way. Celtice Way Congestion Mitigation Project. We've had some construction going on in our downtown core over the course of the summer. In fact, we've had 2 projects going on this summer. One of them, our street department has been managing a project to update 8 pedestrian ramps in the downtown corridor, 24 ramps, and this has been by an ITD grant of $60,000. The city's match is our work effort to remove the concrete from those locations for the work to be done, and then there was about $6,000 of city's contribution in dollars. The main project that we've had going on is the Celtice Congestion Mitigation Project, and this is a project that has been a long time in coming, and it is, what we're building today is phase 2 of a 3-part project to try to improve movement in the downtown corridor. Phase 1 we built in 2016 and 2017, which was to put in modern improvements on 7th Avenue to better handle traffic volumes so that it could detour around the Celtice Spokane area and get to the intersections of Henry and Celtice and Compton and Celtice Way. Phase 2, which we have under construction right now, involves the construction of 3 traffic signals at Compton and Celtice, Henry and Celtice, and then Mullen Avenue and Spokane Street. Phase 2 also involves the placement of fiber optic cables to connect those 3 traffic signals, along with 4 existing traffic signals to here at City Hall, where we will have the ability to access those signals, make modifications to timing, monitor them if there's a complaint about traffic backups to see why that's going on. That will also be able to be done down at the street department, as well as we are trying to work with the Idaho Transportation Department so that they can also monitor those signals. 4 of those 7 signals will belong to ITD at the completion of this project, and the other 3 belonging to the city. Phase 3, per the Celtice Mullen Congestion Mitigation Plan, was to make some modifications on 6th and 5th Avenue. Our 2017 Transportation Master Plan update indicated some alternative solutions which may be more cost-effective and have a better return on safety and efficiency of the transportation system. We will be looking at trying to get that started in 2019 as far as planning level, coming up with a good plan and the cost on that. So where are we today on the Southeast Mullen or Southeast Congestion Mitigation Project? Planning started in 2008, design started in 2012, and we finally got to construction and had funding approved to go out to bid this year. Construction started July 23rd, and with an estimated cost of $2.1 million, of which we are participating from our transportation impact fee dollars about $236,000, or roughly half the cost of a normal traffic signal. We're getting 3 traffic signals and a lot of communications capability and modern technology to operate these signals. So far, our contractor over the past couple months has been doing a lot of utility coordination work. There's been some new power poles that have had to be put in, raising power lines so they're out of the way of traffic signals. Fat Beam, Frontier, Spectrum, Avista, they've all had wires that they've had to relocate and move. Underground work. A lot of the work that we're doing this fall is stuff that's going to be underground. People aren't going to see it or really even notice that it's even there when it's done. We're putting in foundations, putting in vaults, a lot of concrete underground. And then there's miles worth of fiber optic communications. It may be a short distance between City Hall and Spokane Street and Southeast Way, but it still takes a lot of fiber optics to communicate and connect to all those signals, get around the corners. ITD did a lot of front work back in 2014. They laid a backbone line from 4th Avenue all the ways up to Mullen Avenue, which has helped keep the costs a little bit lower on this project, even though it is $2.1 million. Surface repairs are also going on. We're modifying some of the curb returns so that can fit the desired design vehicles. And then as they put in their fiber optic communications and foundations, they have to modify storm drains and get everything back to a good operational condition prior to this winter. One of the drawbacks, well, actually, before I get into that, as you're doing a project in a downtown area, sometimes we find historic artifacts. Over at the intersection of Henry Street and Southeast, we started digging down to put in a foundation for the traffic signal. We found underneath the section of roadway that we were tearing out an old dry well, which happened to be right at the location where we wanted to put in a signal foundation. Why back in the 1980s when they did some work in that area did they put the road over a dry well and never fill it in? I don't know, but it's good that we found a potential future liability and got rid of it. The other item was one day I was at a meeting and I was with our consulting engineer who's doing the inspection work, and they got a call from the contractor and said, the contractor hit something. They don't know what it is, but it's big. I said, well, what's going on? Well, they tried to move around it, but they hit it again. And I said, are they at the intersection of Southeast Way and Spokane Street? Yeah, how'd you think that? I said, I bet they hit the old pedestrian underpass. So back, our best guess is about in the 1930s or early 40s, there was a pedestrian underpass put in on Southeast Way at Spokane Street. Right now, that is underneath the southbound right lane. It is still hollow. They happened to hit the concrete wall of it about where the steps are at. ITD wasn't fully aware that it still was there, so we've brought it to their attention, and that is a liability which they are going to be working on and programming to get that filled in so that it's not a future sinkhole. But it is neat to find and take a look inside that lower right-hand picture. Is looking inside it is hollow. It's dark, it's dirty, but it's there, 8 feet wide, 10 feet tall. So our next steps, we need to finish the underground and surface work. That's projected by November of this year. Contractor's a little bit ahead of schedule, but I'm holding them to their schedule on this of being November. Installation of traffic signals themselves is planned for the fall of this year or early spring. As soon as they got the project award, they ordered the steel for the signal poles, but they were told that it was about 24 weeks out on that, almost half a year. So they're anticipating it in late November, early December of this year. As weather allows over the winter, they'll put up the signals, and then they'll turn them on, and then there's about a 3-month period where they will be calibrating the signals. We are trying to use something called adaptive technology, which is we utilize actual conditions on the roadway, how many vehicles are going through there at a given time, to make a determination of what type of timing program should be done. And also taking a look at actual operation performance of those signals. We can look at it on a daily basis, weekly basis, et cetera, and try to find ways to say, well, on a daily basis, this one southern leg has a lot of extra time that there aren't vehicles going through it. So we can take green time away from that and give it to another movement in that intersection to try to improve efficiency. We're trying to squeeze everything we can out of Spokane Street and Celtice Way in this area without having to get into right-of-way acquisition and putting in more lanes and getting rid of businesses. So that covers everything as to where we're at. Do you have any questions at this time?
Thank you, Rob. Any questions, Rob? Great information.
Good job, Rob. You're welcome.
And you were quick. Thank you. Next item up, Mayor comments. Do have one update. It's on the crosswalks. At a recent City Council meeting, citizen concerns were brought up regarding the safety of pedestrians crossing the intersections of Celtice Way, Vest Street, and Celtice Way at Graffiti Street. Assistant City Engineer Rob Paul has sent the following report. For the past 2 years, the Police Department, Street Division, Urban Forestry, and Engineering have done crosswalk safety emphasis, safety enforcement, complete sign relocations, installations of high visibility crosswalk markings, and pruning of trees. While these efforts have improved visibility of signs in the crosswalks, they have not alleviated the safety concerns of 35-mile-per-hour traffic not yielding to pedestrians. On the week of September 10th, the Street Department installed a pedestrian-activated crosswalk sign at the intersection of Celtice Way and Vest Street, location of McDonald's, Ace Hardware, and Gross Donuts. This was a sign we had in our inventory. This location worked well since existing signposts could be used and no additional concrete work was required. We were not able to install a similar sign at the intersection of Celtice Way and Graffiti Street due to required modifications to sidewalks for accessibility and electrical work for pedestrian push buttons. To monitor the effectiveness of the sign installed at Celtice Way and Vest Street, a borrowed video camera will record several days of operations to help determine daily pedestrian volumes and driver behavior when crosswalk buttons are activated. Crosswalk signs with pedestrian-activated flashing beacons are relatively new and cost about $6,000 per intersection. These devices are not recommended for all intersections, and highest consideration should be where there is a history of vehicle-pedestrian collisions that could be corrected by these devices. Also within school zones, near parks, and other high-volume pedestrian areas where their use would be effective. So that was in direct response to questions asked and public comment. Thank you, Rob, for the update and for the departments for taking a look at that. Council comments. Linda.
I'd just like to give an update on the Art Committee's Eagle project that we have going on down on South Spokane Street in the Planter. Would like to thank JUB Engineering for their generous donation of a structural engineer to help our engineering department decide and construct what we need to hold the Eagle in place, and to thank all of the citizens for their donations. We're still a couple $1,000s away from meeting our goal, and if you would like to donate to that art project, you can make your check out to the City of Post Falls with Eagle in the memo line and send it to City Hall. So I do appreciate everybody's help on that.
Thanks for your work on that, Linda.
Everybody's been very good, and it'll look really nice when it's done. So thank you.
Any comments? Seeing none, we do need an executive session tonight.
How long?
How long do you think?
20 minutes?
Move to enter into executive session pursuant to Idaho Code 74-206-1A to consider hiring a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual agent wherein the respective qualities of the individuals are to be evaluated in order to fill a particular vacancy or need. Furthermore, that no action will be taken during the session, and it will last about 20 minutes.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion. Shannon, please take the roll.
Anthony?
Aye.
Wolf?
Aye.
Wilhelm?
Aye.
Thorson?
Aye.
Orders?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aloy?
Motion passes. Thank you. We'll enter executive session. Call the meeting back to order. Are there any motions to come forward?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.